Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank all the witnesses for your testimony. A number of questions come to mind. I turn first to Mr. Ebert. In Pennsylvania, do you have what you consider to be a water quality monitoring system out there that gives an idea on what's point source, what isn't, and what you're getting leached into your streams?
Yes, I think DEP actually does do a lot of water quality monitoring. I can probably get you more information.
Well, I'll just ask you, are you confident that the records are good enough now that the science is there to make recommendations, let alone regulations on applications of, say, fertilizer?
I think it's always evolving. As we become more attuned of how nutrients move, there is science there, but it can always be improved upon. And I think some of that science can be plugged into that model.
In typical soil in Pennsylvania, would you have a sense on about how long it would take for applied nitrogen to leach through and out of the soil?
I'm not attuned to that knowledge. I mean, I think it's there. I can always find out that information.
Yeah. And I ask you this question because it seems to me that you have people in the EPA that are trying to regulate this without being able to answer that question. And if we don't have a sense on well, let's just say, what's the baseline? Do you have a sense of what the baseline is? What it is, where I come from, we say, what was the water quality when the buffalo were roaming someplace other than upstream?
I mean, that's it. How far back do you want to go till, you consider the water quality that you want to achieve?
Well, let me just, but isn't that what the environmentalists are after? They want to get back to the time when the buffalo roamed, because they say that's when the ecology was as perfectly balanced as we can imagine. And so anything that you would apply that would result in leaching into the water, into the stream, that would be in excess of that, they would consider should be regulated before you apply it. Am I close to what you're seeing?
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
They want to control all aspects of the farming operation.
And I'm just submitting that they don't know what it was then. There was no water quality tests then. And they can only imagine, but they also imagine that your application is too much. And if we have a lawsuit going on in Iowa. It is the Des Moines Water Works. I'm glad to see that nod, Ms. English. The Des Moines Water Works says because they have nitrate records that show there's been an increase over the last 40 years, a 60% increase over the last 40 years. And by the way, those records are a little bit dated. They just went into my head and stuck there. That they know that it's coming out of our feedlots and off of our farmland because they're taking the tests right out in the river outside the Des Moines Water Works. So they're suing 3 counties, including mine, in an attempt to establish a precedent case so they can regulate crop inputs all across this nation. I want to just put that into the record, and I ask Ms. English, you're faced with the acuteness of it in phosphorus down there in Florida. I hope we can help you with that. And I'm quite impressed that the family farm goes back that far and that your family linkage goes back that far. I want to see that continue. Do you see solutions coming for the phosphorus problem?
Yes, I do. I think that in the state of Florida, and I think to Mr. O'Toole's point, the local focus is absolutely key. We are working together with, and Florida has numeric nutrient criteria, which was imposed upon us through the litigation process, and ultimately, when I asked a question of one of my counterparts with one of the environmental groups who filed the litigation, I said, why Florida? We've got more data than anybody else. We've got more systems in place to try to improve water quality than anybody else. Why us? And he said, well, because I had the data. Okay, that was an interesting approach. But from this point, when we're using best management practices, when we see what's happened in the Everglades agricultural area, and they have so far exceeded the goals for phosphorus reduction. And the response from the environmental community was not, that's great, what terrific land management. The answer was, well, we didn't reduce phosphorus enough. What is enough? Enough, is it enough when we can no longer biologically meet the reduction standard? And that appears to be the answer.
And so we're chasing a mirage here with it. Here's, with an environmentalist approach and an EPA approach, that, well, they have a mission, and that mission is continuing to tighten down regulations. There's no place, there's no goal for them. Would you agree that that's the sense of it, that they haven't articulated where this would ever stop? There'll always be another level and another, that's the history, I would agree.
That would be my experience in the last 22 years of practicing law in the state of Florida. I have nothing that would indicate otherwise.
You've gone through a lot. That was quite an impressive testimony. I thank you, Ms. English, and all the witnesses here this morning. Mr. Chairman, I yield back the balance of my time.